What's going on, college football fans? Welcome back to the First and Long College Football Show. I'm Marcus. That's Mason. It's our best bets of the week. It's between the lines. Every single week, we give you our best bets against the spread, giving you our best foot forward, how to beat Vegas this weekend. I beat them pretty good last weekend, Mason. Let's see if we can keep it going. Week 2, I was 5-2 against the spread. And then separately, we do obligatory money line picks. I was 1-1 on the money line. So a good week last week, Mason. How you doing today? How'd you do last week? And hopefully you got some good picks for us again this week. You did good week 1. Did you keep the magic going?
I did. Kind of mirrored week 1, actually, in a way. Went 6-3 again. And I won on both my money lines, hit on Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. Mississippi State was the big one, though. I mean,
yeah,
that was a pretty good little return on that, plus 200 on that one. So returned 2 units there. Vanderbilt kind of saw that one coming. Maybe not to that extent. I thought Vanderbilt looked extremely dangerous, which will kind of get us into some picks this week, I think. But yeah, another successful week. I'm feeling a little less confident this week than I have the past 2 weeks, which is odd because we have more data. It should get easier as the season goes along. But for whatever reason, today I made my picks, but this week I've been thinking about these picks and whatnot, and man, it's tough to really pick any. But I've got 8 picks here this week. Out of those 8 picks, 6 of those picks come from 3 different games. So I feel pretty good about a few games. I doubled up on my picks on those. I'm trying to kind of thread the needle in some cases. And, outside of that, just try to get what I can. So we'll see how it goes. Ready to lock it up with you, Mark.
It's always a gamble. Pun intended. Let's
almost literally.
Jump in. Literally, quite literally, it's always a gamble. So I had a bad week 1. Other than that, we've had good weeks. Other than that, so we're looking good overall as a network. We're over 500. I am currently at 7-7. I went 5-2 last week. I was 2-5 the week before that. So back to 500. Back to nada. Let's do this thing. And I'm just for the record, I am negative 0.35 units on the money line going into week 3. And honestly, I'm a little undecided on my money line pick. So I'll probably pick that as we kind of go here. But I do have 7 picks against the spread. These are my 7 best bets. Let's get started. We'll go 1 each at a time. But as we typically do on the show, we'll go through the big games first. Do you have anything on Georgia-Tennessee this week?
I do. And I messed up. I had 2 more picks last week that I forgot to mention on the show, and it was the Georgia game. I had the under, and I had Austin Peay covering. Both hit, obviously. And I think it was later Friday night after we did our picks, or maybe it was Thursday night. I just was going back through, and somehow I missed it. I didn't even put my bet down, but I had it picked. So shame on me for that. Could be even in better shape for the year, but I feel pretty good about this Georgia team and what I know about them. Right? Obviously, we're Georgia fans. We spend more time as fans watching Georgia content, or at least I do. I know the roster much better. I can just about name 85 scholarship players on Georgia's roster. I feel like I have a pretty good idea of who Georgia is right now. in 2 weeks of film. And what I know about Georgia is that they're extremely good on defense. Like I don't think non-Georgia fans realize how good this Georgia defense is. They're young, which means that they are prone to potentially some busts on the back end. Maybe not playing as gap sound as some other more experienced Georgia defenses have in the past, but they are extremely athletic and long and fast. That being said, I'm taking the under in this game just for that reason. I feel extremely confident that Georgia has the best unit on this team or on the field, and that's the defensive side of the football for Georgia. So because of that, I feel confident in taking Georgia at -3.5. That was the best that I could find this morning. I think that Tennessee's really going to struggle to find the end zone. I do feel like they find it one time in this football game, and that's probably going to be it. It's probably going to come in the first quarter. I think some first quarter over props would be a pretty good little bet to take. But I'm taking UGA under 50.5. And then, or I guess the total of the game under 50.5, and I'm taking UGA at -3.5. I feel pretty good about this one, Mark.
Yeah, I've got a play pretty similar to that. I'm going to take Tennessee under 23.5 team total for the game. So I agree with everything that you're saying. As a Georgia fan, as stupid as it sounds, I'm holding out hope that Georgia has some kind of offensive explosion. I'm still holding out hope because after watching the Georgia offense the last two games, and in comparison to watching them last season, even against Notre Dame in the playoffs last year, this can't be all there is to this offense.
Right.
It's impossible. It's just impossible to me. There's got to be something else. And, you know, I'm usually the first one on the internet whenever somebody's saying, you know, so-and-so's hiding something. They just don't want to, you know, they just don't want to show their cards yet and blah, blah, blah. And I usually am the first one to make fun of that shit. But Georgia legitimately has played no one and has known this game was coming up, third game of the season. It does make a little bit of sense in this scenario. You know, when we get mid-October and November, nobody's hiding anything at that point, right? Everybody's had to use their guns in their arsenal. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm still holding out hope that Georgia can get out here and score some points in this one. I think the Georgia team total was right around 27. So Vegas predicting this one, you know, around 27 to 24 being the final score here. Honestly, you know, I think if you're wanting to bet the spread on this game, I think Tennessee plus 3.5 is probably what you'd have to go with. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to bet on the spread just because I don't know how this one's going to go, man. So give me Tennessee under 23.5 team total. Tennessee not only has struggled to score touchdowns in this series of late, they've struggled to get first downs. And so I don't see Tennessee getting in the end zone a whole lot in this one. I agree with you on Georgia's defense. I think it's got a chance to be, really, really, really good. So we'll see if Tennessee can muster up some points in this one. Obviously, the matchup inside the matchup, it's going to be, I think, Joey Aguilar, right, against that Georgia secondary. Can he catch somebody, you know, slipping? Essentially, I think is what this game's going to boil down to. Who can make less mistakes? And I'm betting on the Georgia defense to do that.
Yeah.
All right.
And just one more point on this game, something I forgot to talk about in our preview, and not to make this a preview about the Georgia-Tennessee game, but it is the big game of the week. So I'll give you another point here when you're making your bets, just to kind of take this into consideration. And it goes in line with what you were saying, is Georgia, and that's been the big question from Georgia fans, is the Georgia offense holding back, right? Because they were facing lesser opponents. Well, one bit of evidence that would suggest that they possibly are holding back is if you go back and watch particularly the Notre Dame game from last year, because Georgia had some time to kind of understand that Gunnar Stockton's coming in at quarterback and had a game plan revolving around his play type and style. If you go back to that game, Georgia was taking shots down the field, right? It didn't look like the same offense that we've seen through the first 2 weeks of this season, which that leads me to think that they probably are holding a good bit back, which makes me a little bit more comfortable in taking.
That was the
Georgia
point I was trying to get at, and I'm an idiot, but yes, that is what I'm saying. I agree, because Georgia was doing that with that shitty group of wide receivers that they had last year.
Yeah.
Right. And then you bring these guys in that you've got Branch and Thomas, and Young still hanging around. There's absolutely no sense not to be utilizing the strength of this offense. And I feel like this is a great opportunity to do so, because Tennessee's strength in their defense lies in their front seven. And especially considering the injuries that they've got, in the secondary at this point. So I just think that this is a grand old opportunity. Another pun there on Friday. A grand old opportunity to really open it up and let Gunnar Stockton throw the ball around, because I think you got the receivers to be able to do it. Does Georgia have the cojones to go one-on-one and try to win some 50-50 balls? We'll see. I think they've got the receivers to do it. Long, lanky. I think you got the guys on the outside to do it. You've got a guy streaking in the middle of the field that's an absolute burner. At some point, you've got to lean into what I think is the strength of this offense, and that's the playmakers are along the outside. All right, let's keep it going. And that sounds weird to say, right? Playmaker, you got to trust your playmakers on the outside. Georgia fans hadn't got to say that a whole lot. So we're all clamoring for it, but we don't even really know what we're clamoring for. We haven't even seen it before. But I think that is the strength of this offense. I haven't been able to say that in a long time, or ever.
Absolutely.
Ever. In my lifetime, for sure.
In anybody's lifetime. I don't care who it is. This is
yeah.
To have the strength of your team being or offense being the wide receivers for Georgia, that's never been said.
That's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Weird world we're living in. All right, let's keep going. How about some of these other big games? We've got Texas A&M-Notre Dame this weekend. We've got Florida at LSU. We've got Vanderbilt-South Carolina. How about Texas A&M and Notre Dame? Do you got a play on that one?
This is another twofer for me. I'm taking Texas A&M to cover here. I got them at 6.5. Would love to see that at around 7. I might even pay to bet this up a little bit personally, but for the sake of the show, I'm still going to take Texas A&M at plus 6.5. Look, I like CJ Carr. I think he's an up and coming quarterback. Really tough start to the season for him. I mean, you look at their first 2 games, they've got a pretty tough Miami defense that they faced in week 1, get a bye week. Now you got to face a tough Texas A&M defense, and it feels like the season is on the line for Notre Dame. If they don't win this game, the only other game that they can hope for being a top 25 matchup is USC, and I think it probably will be at that point in the season. It's put up or shut up in this game. I really do feel like the stakes are that high for Notre Dame. A lot of pressure for a young quarterback to be able to perform. He's lucky this game's at home at least, but it's a lot of pressure for him to be able to perform. And going up against a pretty difficult Mike Elko defense. I haven't seen what I thought I would see out of Texas A&M so far this year. They've given up a pretty good bit of points against lesser opponents, relatively speaking to how they've played, really just last year under Mike Elko. So they've given up a few more points. I don't know if that's just garbage time points or something like that that's been going on with the Aggies. But I do know that I feel confident going into a big game that Mike Elko is going to have this defense ready to roll. They've got the dudes. They've got the playmakers. I think that the defense is going to be able to hold up against Notre Dame's rushing attack and Jeremiah Love, who was extremely underutilized against Miami. I don't know if they were just trying to use him as a decoy and hoping that would be enough, but Notre Dame's going to have to get him more involved in this game if they want to win it. I think that we're in for another really close matchup. I think it's a field goal game. If anything, if it's not a field goal game, I think that Texas A&M could win it outright. And I don't know. I don't think enough people are talking about Marcel Reed, to be honest with you. I think he's a really good quarterback, and he's figuring out some things in the passing game. It doesn't, at least hasn't so far, looked like Texas A&M's offense can be stopped. They got Le'Veon Moss back. He's able to run the football. This isn't Al Golden's defense anymore. They don't have the players on the interior of that defensive line to stop the run like they had last year. Lost a lot on that defensive line. I'm a little bit worried for Notre Dame right now. I've got Texas A&M plus 6.5. They might just win it outright. I don't have them on the money line. I'll go ahead and tell you that, but it would not surprise me in the least bit if they're able to do that on the road. And then I've also got, kind of going in that same line of thinking, I've got the Texas A&M team total over 21.5. I think they're going to find some success here. I think that they can get 3 touchdowns and probably a field goal somewhere along the way. And that's a cover for me. So give me the Aggies team total over 21.5. I would love to see that at 21. It made me a little bit nervous betting this one, but I'm going to roll with it. I think that they get to at least 24 this game.
I've got a play that I would say plays into that, under 50.5 for the total game. This one wasn't high scoring last year. The over is actually getting bet pretty hard by the public. This one has creeped up a couple of points. And honestly, maybe the betting has stopped at 50.5. You may see that tick up to 51 and then you crack the under. I don't know. You guys, you take a risk when you wait, right? It may, big money may come in on the under here late and then knock it back down to 49.5. And that would be a little bit more sketchy of a play, but under 50.5, I feel pretty good. I still think the Notre Dame defense is, especially in the secondary, I think they're going to be able to do enough to slow Texas A&M down and keep explosive plays in front of them. Are they able to stop the run with Texas A&M and stop those plays around the line of scrimmage? I don't think so. I think Texas A&M is going to have moderate success, but I don't see this one being fireworks all the way through. I certainly don't see Notre Dame scoring a bunch of points in this one. So I just like the under 50.5. So I'm going to jump on that. That's going to be a really good one. I can't wait to see it. I agree with you. I think Texas A&M's offense looks more mature at this point than any point last year. Terry Bussey is starting to come into his own. Seen him make some explosive plays offensively. And some of the pieces that you got back on that offense for Texas A&M look really good. And beyond that, the offensive line looked pretty good. Now, they haven't played anybody, but the offensive line was mauling people. They have been so far this season. So
very comparable offensive line to Miami, I think. A lot of experience, some good talent. They're probably not as good as Miami, but I think that this could be, by the end of the season, we're saying Texas A&M might have the best O-line in the SEC.
Yeah. You say they're not as good as Miami, but I mean, let's just be real. That's a high bar this year.
Sure.
That's a high bar. Miami, I think, is probably the best offensive line in the country. I haven't seen one that looks any better. But for considering who Texas A&M has played, they get an A grade so far. As far as the offensive line goes, that's for sure. This will be much more formidable of an opponent and test for them going on the road to Notre Dame. Everybody will be watching. I believe that one's 7:30 p.m. So going to be in the primetime slot there. Also close to the primetime slot there, I think it's 7:45 if my memory serves me correctly, which it doesn't all the time. But Vandy at South Carolina. You got any plays on Vandy at South Carolina this weekend? This one has been one that's been talked about on our channel a lot. We have a lot of South Carolina fans that come and hang out, and South Carolina's been a very fun brand of football over the last 12 to 18 months. So Naturally, their fans are all over the internet. Welcome. We love you guys. We love chit-chatting with you guys. But we got nailed to the cross a little bit from our predictions earlier this week, saying that we felt like Vandy stood a fighting chance in this one, essentially. Plus 3.5 in this one, Vandy is. What say you, man? This is on the road at South Carolina. Going to be a raucous environment. There's no doubt about that. You got to play?
I do. I did not want to just gloss over this game. It was tough to find a pick here. I'll be honest with you. This line's moved a lot. You can see we've got 5.5 as the spread on your screen here. Well, that's from that's a number taken, from when we did our previews earlier in the week. So that number has shifted. Now you can even get a 3 in some cases. So if you like South Carolina in this matchup, I definitely would be interested in that number. But when I look at this game, one thing that I've noticed so far with both of these teams is they really want to run the football. Lenore Sellers hasn't really connected with his receivers. We kind of said going into the season that we weren't sure about the receiver play on the perimeter. Nick Harbor, I think we're still kind of waiting on him to really click. He looked better than he did last season, but I don't think he is anywhere near his ceiling at this point. So if you're telling me that both of those things are true, I think this game's going to be played very fast. I think it's going to be a short game, which is why I like the under. Seeing the under at 49 and a hook, 49 being that very key number there, made me go ahead and pull the trigger on this game here. I've got the under 49.5. I like South Carolina's defense as well, which is what kind of scares me away from taking Vandy and the points in this game. I think that the South Carolina defense could be the difference in this football game. And plus a little bit of YOLO ball, from Diego Pavia, like we've seen here over the past couple of weeks, could get him in trouble. But yeah, under the under to me is the play this week. But I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes either way, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see it go either way either, and that's why I'm going to take the underdog here. This is a road dog on Saturday night. I don't know, bettors. Some bettors just really don't like taking a road dog in the prime time. But you know what, Vandy? When are they not the underdog in prime time? I mean, there's no way to take them in prime time. If you know what I'm saying, like this is the greatest opportunity I'm going to get to ride the Vandy train, and I'm going to ride it right here, man. Plus 3.5. I think there's a slim path to victory here. Okay. I think South Carolina probably wins this thing by a field goal, but I think we're in for a really good game. I really do. Vandy has got a lot of fight. Okay. And they've got momentum. The program is on an upward trajectory right now, just like South Carolina is. Okay. Just like South Carolina is. So I'm not saying that South Carolina doesn't stand a chance because the Commodores are coming into town. That's not what I'm saying, but this ain't your grandfather's Commodores. It's just not. We've watched Vandy slay some giants over the last couple of years. And South Carolina is somewhat of a giant right now. I just think this is going to be a really good one. Vandy does not have any quit in them. I think the way that you see South Carolina cover this is, like you said, Diego Pavia putting the ball in harm's way. He likes to take a risk. He's a risk-reward guy, and he's willing to take big risks for a big reward. So we'll see if South Carolina is able to capitalize on that. But he's a playmaker.
To that point, I think that's one way or another, that's going to be the difference in this football game. He's going to take 3 to 5 huge chances, and it's either going to win him the game like it did against Alabama when he hit the receiver, in the end zone on that play that doesn't work like 95 out of 100 times. It just kind of happened to work that time. Is he going to be positive or negative in those 5 plays? Right? Yeah. Is he gonna win 3 of them or lose 3 of them? That to me is going to be the difference in this game.
I really like your underplay here, and I think I'm actually going to hop on with you because it kind of plays into my hand as well with the Vandy plus 3.5 because I mean the lower score in the game, the less points are to go around. Typically, the lower the spread, right, of the actual final score. And with this few of points to go around, it plays right into my plus 3.5. You said you got it at 49.5. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the best I could get.
All right, I'm gonna jump on the 49.5 as well because my final point on this is South Carolina's offense hasn't looked that great yet, man. I mean, let's just be real about it. They haven't looked that great yet. Vandy's offense looked better against Virginia Tech than South Carolina did.
Yeah,
you know,
if I'm an opponent a week off from each other, that kind of matters. It doesn't always matter, but they were a week apart. That kind of matters.
It's got to matter. I saw it with my own eyes. It has to matter. And not to mention, Vandy gets down in that game to Virginia Tech 10-0 and just comes roaring back. And honestly, kind of gives me the feel that Vanderbilt, they figured something out in that game. And things just started clicking, and guys were open after that. And Diego Pavia was hitting them. You know, part of that 10-0 was Pavia getting them in a compromising situation by making a really bad throw into double coverage in that game early on. I don't think he makes those mistakes in this one early on, and I think that we're in for a 4-quarter battle here. The under is my friend. The under is my friend. It has been all season. All right, let's keep it going. That one seems to be sparking more conversation really than any of these other games, which is pretty crazy to me. But it makes sense. I'm all eyes on South Carolina this weekend. Florida and LSU. You got to play on that one.
Sorry, I lost you there for a minute. Somebody called me and it messed up my
Tell work that we are busy.
I hear you.
I mean, that like they pay you your salary or something. Shit. But
I don't have a play on the Florida game. Okay. I feel like this. I don't know. It would seem all too fitting for Florida to come back and win this game against LSU, like to go on the road and just flip the script and say, "Hey, we're not what you think we are." I don't know, man. It scared me away from this one. I like LSU's defense. I think that they have kind of turned a corner, and I'm anxious to see if they continue to kind of back that statement in this game. It's Lagway looks like he's a little bit lost right now. Missed a lot of time in the offseason due to injury. I think that he's off schedule with a lot of his throws and just doesn't seem to have the timing and the rhythm with his receivers yet. I think LSU's my lean, but just not leaning hard enough to bet it right now.
I'm going to bet it. It's at 7.5. Maybe look, and money's been coming in a little bit on Florida, and maybe some of the smart money does come in at the end of the weekend here on Florida, and it brings this down to 7. So if you can get LSU minus 7, I certainly think that that's the play. Look, there's a guy that I watch on YouTube all the time. His name's Steve Merrill. I don't mind giving him a shout out because Steve's like a super nice guy. I comment back and forth on his videos. I think he's with Wager Report or some betting channel that I like to watch. 10,000 game simulation. Average score was LSU winning this one by 10. And look, these simulations don't take into account what's actually going on in real life either. Like the off-field stuff, right? It doesn't take into account for any of that. Florida gets down by double digits in this game. Raise your hand if you think that Florida is just going to cut it back on and play hard for their coach, finish through the whistle. I think LSU's got a chance here if they can get out of their own way on offense, which hasn't happened yet this season, by the way. If they can get out of their own way on offense and they go up 10 or 14 points in this game, I don't see Florida having the fight to be able to get out of this one. They'll probably be spitting on everybody getting kicked out of the game, throwing shoes, all that stuff. I mean, I look for Florida to bring out the whole 9 yards as far as the extracurriculars go. And this one's at LSU at night. I don't know, man. This is, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, Florida's probably a duck. And I think they're a sitting duck right now, man. Just absolute, just waiting to explode. They want to fire Billy Napier. I think Florida fans are probably like, don't want Florida to win this game. The longer you wait, the more chance Billy Napier has of winning a couple games and saving his job. So I think Florida, the hot seat talk continues next week. I think it only heats up. The buyout's only $20 million. LSU somehow comes out here and wins this one by 21 points or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see Florida try to pull the trigger on something, right? But I just, there's not enough starch in them jeans, man. LSU is a more well-rounded football team this year than they have been in years past. It's going to be really tough on that Florida offense, who's struggling in their own right, by the way. You talked about it. DJ Lagway not playing well, right? He hasn't played well yet this season. I wouldn't be surprised to see this one be a low-scoring game, to be honest with you, just considering the fact that LSU they have not been able to get out of their own way offensively. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, they're just absolutely loaded with playmakers, specifically at the wide receiver position. I think it's some offensive line issues that they've got to get sorted out. Obviously lost a lot of talent from last year, but I don't care, man. I think LSU wins this thing by double digits, just to be honest with you. I don't think Florida is not nearly as good as everybody acted like they were in the offseason, especially Josh Pate. Josh Pate was, Florida's going to the playoffs. I told y'all Billy Napier's going to do it. Yeah, not so much and not so fast. Give me LSU minus 7.5. I think they're going to beat the stew out of them Gators.
That line has shifted. So there are a ton of sevens out there, and there's even a 6.5 with a little bit of juice. If you want to take that, it's at minus 125, so it's not terrible.
That's not too bad.
Yeah. But yeah, minus 6.5 will help you there a little bit.
All right, I'll take minus 6.5. That works. I don't see this one being that close, man. Maybe for 2 quarters, maybe 3 quarters, but I think LSU is able to pull away in the end on this one. All right, let's keep it going here. I guess we'll open the board up. I got one more. I would say here's 2 more matchups that people have got their eyes on. How about South Florida at Miami? Everybody's talking about South Florida. They were new to our top 25 rankings this week. If you missed that, go back and check out our rankings video that we did earlier this week, where we do our own. We did top 15 this week, which seems more fitting than a top 25 at this point. But South Florida at Miami. What are your thoughts on that one? I have a play. Do you?
I do have a play. I love the story with South Florida. I don't think it stops with the Miami game. This is a team that I have circled as the leader right now to make it to the playoffs. Coming from that smaller group FBS program, outside of the Power Four. I think that South Florida is still on that trajectory, win or lose in this football game. I wouldn't be too surprised if Miami loses this game. Like, there is a chance for South Florida to win. It's just things really got to go right for them. So I'm not willing to make a money line pick on it. I'm not willing to even take them to cover because I still want to see more from Miami to confirm my thoughts about them. My thoughts are that they've got a phenomenal offensive line. We mentioned it earlier. They might have the best offensive line in the country. I still have concerns about Carson Beck. And I know it seems fitting that a Georgia fan would have concerns about a former Georgia player that transferred out. I don't mean it in that sense. I saw a lot of plays in the Notre Dame game that he was able to connect on, and some throws he connected on that probably shouldn't have worked. And so that to me kind of worries me a little bit, where he could throw this thing up and continue what he did last year, which was throw a lot of picks. Is that the type of player that he is? I'm not not too sure. I'm staying away from the spread, but I think 58 points on the over/under is just a bit too high for me. I like Miami's defense, particularly their defensive line. And when you're talking about a Bulls team that likes to run the football and run the quarterback, give me the defensive line to stop them, slow them down, keep them from touching the scoreboard as much. And then if that happens, all I got to do is have Miami get less than 45 points in this game. I don't think that this is really a game that Miami wants to run the score up a ton. I feel like 58 is too high on this one. Is that I wasn't too confident in this pick. How do you feel about that, Mark? Is that crazy of me to think? Is 58 too high or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably too high. I don't see, 30. This feels like a 34-17 game for Miami. That's what this feels like to me. And maybe it's close for the first half, and Miami pulls away. But excuse me. But Miami, I think, is the perfect. How do I put this? I think Miami has the perfect recipe and mixture of players to ensure that they can come out and beat an opponent like this handily. And what I mean by that is the lines of scrimmage are really, really good for Miami. Okay. This isn't last year's Miami team that was more of a group of specialists, right? You had specialists out there, the wide receivers, Restrepo. I just feel like this team is more well-rounded. The offensive and defensive lines are good enough to where I don't think you come out here and a team like South Florida is able to match up with you for 4 quarters along the lines of scrimmage. Like I said, maybe for the first quarter, they're running on adrenaline. They obviously have a lot of momentum. But South Florida partied like they won the Super Bowl last week, man. And when you're going on the road now to South, now I get it, it's not a far road trip or anything to Miami Gardens, but still got to go on the road. There was more Miami fans at that last big game than I think I've ever seen at an actual Miami game. I think it's going to be more of the same this week, and I think Miami's able to blow them out. I think this one has got blowout written all over it. I'm taking Miami minus 17.5. I think that this one is going to be a shellacking. I really do. Just the fact that it's been an absolute party at South Florida ever since the clock struck 0 in that game last week against the Gators. To think that South Florida is able to do it again this week, it would be an absolute miracle. Look, I don't like losing bets, but if I lost this one and South Florida somehow won, it would make my night. I mean, it would absolutely make my day, make my weekend, make my week. So go ahead, break my heart, South Florida, because I would actually love it. I'd lose my pizza money to see it happen, but I don't think that's the way this one's going. I like the under. You were talking about the underplay. I think that makes a lot of sense. South Florida, honestly, should have never scored 35 points on Boise State. That was a bit fluky, and then didn't score a lot of points to win their game last week against the Gators. I don't see South Florida scoring a lot of points again this week. Miami, if they can avoid turnovers, there's a really good safety on South Florida's team. If Carson Beck can avoid throwing the ball to that guy, I think Miami cruises in a victory here.
Well, and South Florida's defense has looked pretty good over 2 weeks. I think you can say that. A lot of people are blaming Lagway and the Florida offense, but they kind of did it against Boise State too, who we thought had a pretty good offense going into the year. So I that's just further in the point of playing the under here in this game.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong on that. I really don't. What is the under at right now?
58.
I'll take the under 58. I'll jump on with you. There's not really any reason not to jump on that, I don't think.
I don't either, man.
I don't think there's any reason to leave that one out, especially. Nah. I'm not. I like it. I don't see South Florida scoring a bunch of points on Miami, no matter what.
I mean, Miami could score 40 points, and I really don't think South Florida is going to get above 17. You're still covering, and
You're
that's a
still
Florida.
covering that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. 40-17. I think there's a decent percentage chance that happens. But
Yeah.
I still think 34-17 is going to be the final score on this one. To be honest with you, which contradicts my minus 17.5. But I mean, come on, a half point, anything can happen with that. Somebody go for two, or somebody kick an extra field goal or whatever. I like it. I like it. All right. I've only got a couple of picks left. How many you got left? Do you have anything on Arkansas at Ole Miss before we?
Sure do.
Okay, let's talk
sure
about that
do.
one because I do too. Go ahead.
This one to me is going the opposite direction. Not enough is being talked about Arkansas's offense. I think it's extremely good, Mark.
Yeah.
I think Taylor Green he looks like the best quarterback in the SEC right now through 2 weeks, right? Statistically, just watching him on film, he's in the third year now in this system. I guess year 2 under Petrino though. So year 2 under this system. The last quarterback that went through 2 years in college under Bobby Petrino was Lamar Jackson, and we saw how that turned out. So I think that, and he's got a similar kind of skill set. I mean, I think he's the main reason Bobby Petrino came back to Arkansas was to coach Taylor Green here. And so I think that if this is true and what we're seeing from them is what we can expect to see moving forward, I still don't like what they're doing on defense. I think they're pretty bad defensively. At linebacker, it seems outside of Sorey, it seems like they are really struggling right now. And then on the flip side, I mean, Ole Miss, I don't know the health status of Austin Simmons. I don't know if there's something you can share to that, but I do know that he probably has the highest ceiling in the SEC as a quarterback right now. He's just young. And I like what I've seen from him so far. I like what I've seen from the offense so far. But going up against this Arkansas defense, and we know Arkansas's offense going up against an Ole Miss defense that clearly took a step back from last year as well. Give me the over here. It's at 62 for good reason, but we've seen this time and time again. Ole Miss and Arkansas is typically a shootout. It's typically a barn burner, and I think it's going to be much the same this year. Looking on paper, looking at the experience, what we've seen from 2 weeks so far, I can't find anything that leads me to suggest that this game's not played in the 30s. Which would be a cover. It's 62. Over 62 is my play here.
Yeah. I'm going to take Arkansas plus 6.5. I think they can certainly hang in there in this one. I think they got a decent chance to win it, especially citing the Austin Simmons uncertainty. We know what it is in college football. There is no injury report. You know what I'm saying? There's supposed to be for conference games, but I mean, come on. You think Lane Kiffin's not going to play a little jiu-jitsu with that? Even if Austin Simmons isn't able to go, he's going to act like he is, and vice versa. So here's the deal. He's obviously got something nagging him. We're talking about it. I think Taylor Green is healthy right now. If you play Arkansas, you want to play them usually late in the season, at least over the last few years. Early in the season, they've been pretty dynamite. Right? They've gotten people excited early in the season the last couple of years. I think that continues. And I think you're absolutely correct. I think this is going to be a track meet. I think there's probably going to be 900 to 1,000 total yards in this game, barring some kind of weather incident or something. I haven't checked the weather in Mississippi, but looks like it's going to be nice and dry here in Georgia. But give me Arkansas plus 6.5. I'm a huge Taylor Green fan. I got cussed out on the internet last year about comparing Nico Iamaleava to Taylor Green. And as it turns out, that was a huge compliment to Nico Iamaleava, right? Yeah. Everybody was like, no way, Nico, blah, blah, blah. No, Taylor Green is legit. I mean, he is legit, and he's a perfect fit for this offense. I I think that the magic continues for Arkansas offensively. Neither one of these teams are very good defensively. That Ole Miss is a shell of what they were last year defensively, and that's what happens when you're transfer portal heavy. You're going to have a pop year every once in a while. You may have a pop year one side of the ball, and I think that last year Ole Miss that's the best form we've seen Ole Miss in as a complete team in a long time, long time. So I think that they've taken a pretty considerable step back. Vegas has reflected that in the line. The over-under scares me a little bit because, when you get that high, a team loses one or two possessions and then it throws it off. I think you're on the right side of it. I certainly wouldn't bet the under in this one. So I think you're on the right side of it. I'm going to play Arkansas plus 6.5, and hopefully we've got this thing completely surrounded. All right. Where else you want to go? Anywhere on the board?
I've got two more plays, but it's all in the same game. So I'll just go ahead and give you this.
Okay.
I think Oregon, Mark, is the best team in the country right now. They look like the only team that would fit the mold of this team that's in its own tier, right? And we saw this last year during the regular season as well. I think that right now you need to hop on the Oregon train and kind of start betting them because it doesn't look like they're slowing down. I know there was some extra fuel to the fire last week, which allowed them to have the motivation to run the score up, which is what I said they probably wouldn't do last week, and boy was I wrong. But I think that this is a team that can score at will, and they've got a quarterback in Dante Moore who is now really in strong position to win the Heisman. So why not pad his stats a little bit? Every head coach would want a Heisman winner on their roster that they can point to from a recruiting angle and say, hey, we recruit Heisman winning quarterbacks. You want to come be my quarterback? Yeah. And they've had really good success with quarterbacks in this Will Stein offense. I think that continues. I've got Oregon minus 27.5 over Northwestern. I think that's too low. I don't think Northwestern finds the end zone at all in this game. And so if that's the case, I just need Oregon to get to 35. I think they do that pretty easily here. And I've also got the team total. I feel so confident about it. I'm taking Oregon's team total over 39.5. Can we get to 40? Can we get to a 40 to 13? So 41-13 would be a cover for me. I feel pretty good about that. And Northwestern may not even get to the double digits when it's all said and done. This defense is for real. They're very fast, very long. I haven't seen as much physicality on the defensive line as I have in years past or that I've seen from other teams, but they are very quick and they're going to wreak havoc in the backfield. Excited to see more from Oregon. I don't know that I'm going to be watching this game. I don't even know exactly what time it's played, to be honest with you. But I will be kind of paying attention to kind of what's going on in the whispers around the Ducks after this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll scoreboard watch on this one with you because I'm going to jump on Oregon minus 27.5. I rode this train last week. And I was with you last week. I played the under on the game that they were in with Oklahoma State, but I did take Oregon minus the points, and I was rewarded for doing so. So I'm going back to the well. I agree with you. When you see a game at Northwestern, you have to worry as it gets later in fall. I've learned that over the last couple of years. As it gets later in fall, it gets windier and colder, and it gets tougher and tougher to play at Northwestern. This early in the season, I think Oregon kind of dodges a bullet. But we've seen Ohio State, over the last half decade, go to Northwestern and struggle because they always play them when it's 32 degrees or 38 degrees and the wind is blowing 25 miles an hour off of the big lake there. So, this time of year, I think you're probably in decent shape, but what also gives me some insurance, even if it is a windy day out there, Oregon can pound the rock on anybody, I'm pretty sure, this year. So I think that Oregon really above just about anybody else is going to be able to run the football in just about any situation this year, which is why this offense is going to be so dangerous. We can talk about Dante Moore. We can talk about a receiver here, receiver there. All that is true. But it all comes from the run game. Whoever wins the national championship this year, more than likely will have top 5 run game in the country. And I think Oregon has got that box checked. Minus 27.5. I'm riding the train until the wheels fall off or these numbers get bigger. And let's just be honest, y'all. Is Northwestern, I mean, it seems like almost the same opponent 2 weeks in a row. I don't think either one of them's roster, Oklahoma State or Northwestern's roster, is really worth a damn. So I'm gonna ride that train again. All right, that's all our picks against the spread. We've got money line picks here. Who you got on the money line this week, brother? You got one pick. How many picks you got on the money line?
I got 3 picks this week. I'm sitting in good shape. I'm 2-1 on my money line picks this year. I'm positive a pretty good bit from a unit perspective, so I feel like I got a little bit more to spend. One game we haven't talked about yet that I've got to pick on is Georgia Tech over Clemson.
Yes.
This game's being played in Atlanta. I know that Georgia Tech's getting a lot of favor right now. The line has really crept their direction. That the trend is towards Georgia Tech right now, which kind of scares me from making this pick. I was on it before everybody else got on it, so it feels like my logic then had no consideration for what other people were thinking, and I'm just going to continue with that logic and thinking that they've got a real chance to win this football game. I think the right team's favored. I'm not saying that Clemson shouldn't be favored in this game, but we saw Clemson going up against Troy. And if you remember last year when Clemson got blown out by Georgia, the following couple of weeks, they just absolutely blew out the no-name teams that they were facing. And so you had kind of expected them to do the same against Troy, and they weren't able to do it. I mean, they were in a dogfight all the way throughout the first half and had to come back in the second half to really kind of put that one away. That's concerning. I mean, I'm sure you're not just pulling out all the tricks that you can going up against Troy, but you should be able to dominate that football game pretty easily. I've got Georgia Tech at plus 135. I think they're a 3-point underdog, maybe 3.5 points, somewhere around there. I trust this offense under Buster Faulkner to be able to scheme some stuff up going up against a Clemson defense that, let's be honest, they're not what we thought they were. They're really not, especially up front. I expected a lot more coming out of this defensive line. I think that Haynes King and Jamal Haynes they're going to be able to tote the rock and find the end zone on the ground. Give me Georgia Tech here.
Yeah, man. What was the payout on that again?
I'm at plus 135.
Yeah. All right. I was making sure I got the right numbers. Do you have the number? While I'm going to agree with you on that, and I'll explain why. Do you have the numbers on the Texas A&M money line? But look that up for me real quick because I don't have any way to do that right this second. But Georgia Tech, I'm totally on this one, man. Look, I'm big on this, like, show me what you are and I'm going to believe you thing right this second. Everybody thought that Clemson was going to be a lot better than what they are. And I think everybody's just wrong. I just don't think Clemson's as good as what we thought they were going to be this year. Will they hit a stride at some point? It's possible. I mean, the ACC is not some kind of, ironclad conference that you can't just break into some kind of nice little run and win some ball games. But Georgia Tech, I think this is a perfect storm. They sat their starting quarterback last week. You don't know exactly what you're going to get on offense from Georgia Tech this week. We know that they're able to run the football well. I like Haynes, the running back, as well as Haynes, the quarterback. I like both of their ability to run the football. This one's just got upset written all over it for me, man. Georgia Tech has had this game circled for a while, and probably the smart bet, if you bet this game on the spread, probably the smartest thing is to fade the public. The public has been all over this one ever since they've seen Clemson struggle a little bit this season. So like the old stock purchasers saying, when do you buy? You buy low. And right now is a great time to buy Clemson stock just because of the fact that it is low. But look, man, it looks like a duck. It quacks like a duck. I think Clemson's a duck. Okay. The defense ain't near as good as what we thought it was either, by the way. It's not just the offense. I mean, the defense has not looked up to par yet. So I think Georgia Tech's going to be able to run the football, man. Brent Key is an offensive line head coach. Okay. He's going to have those guys ready to play. And if you can control the line of scrimmage, you can control a football game. And Georgia Tech knows how to take over with that offensive line at times. And they'll put you on skates, especially when you're tired there towards the end of the game. I don't know, man. I like Georgia Tech and their ability to pull this one off. Give me them at plus 135. I'm riding that train with you. And then what about Texas A&M? What was the value on that one?
Sorry about that. I muted myself, but I got you at plus 210 on that one.
All right, Bud Elliott.
I know, right?
Plus 210. I love that. I think Texas A&M legitimately should be able to pull that one off this weekend. I think Notre Dame's in for a rough season, man. I was higher on them than I should have been coming into this season. I just like Marcus Freeman. I think he's a really good coach. He's a lot better coach than what I thought he was. But they don't have the Jimmies and Joes this year, man. I just don't think they do. Young quarterback. It seems to me like if of these two teams, if it's anybody's turn to have a good season, I think it's Texas A&M's turn. And I think Texas A&M, it's the perfect storm for them. Nobody's been talking about them earlier in the season, man. I mean, nobody. I think Texas A&M gets a really big win on the road here. And so give me them at plus 210.
I gotta piggyback off of you on this one now because I didn't see the odds on this one. I was kind of waffling a little bit, but after you and I kind of talked about that matchup earlier in this show, I think it's a really good bet. I think that's probably the best money line pick from a value versus possibility of it hitting standpoint. It's kind of got the best of both worlds there. I'm going to hop on board with you at Texas A&M plus 210. Another one we talked about earlier, I'm taking Vandy plus 150 over South Carolina. The style of offense that Vandy's playing right now, I think really works in their favor in this football game. I know that the defense for South Carolina is really good. I feel confident that Vanderbilt's is pretty good as well. But Diego Pavia, a risk taker, a gunslinger, whatever you want to call it, I'm just going to bet on him hitting more plays in this game than not. And that's going to be the deciding factor in this football game. I don't think that they win it by more than 3 points. I think it's going to be a very close game. But I like Vandy in this from a possibility standpoint at plus 150.
Yes, I hear you. I think that Vandy's got a good chance this weekend. That's going to be a really good one. Man, we got a good slate here. I appreciate all y'all coming and hanging out with us. We had people popping in and out the entire show. I appreciate y'all. Y'all do me a favor, though, before you leave. Hit that like button for us. Help us keep the video moving along. Love doing this show every week. It's probably our least popular show. It's not probably. It definitely is. But this is for the love of the game. We like to keep up with our betting totals throughout the year. We like to give you guys what we think our best options are. I had a great year last year and the year before. We're on a good trajectory to start this season. Mason's well over 500. So we're just doing our best to give you our best bets. How about you return the favor? Go in the comment section. Give us your best bets of the weekend. I'd love to hear it. Put it on record with us. just like we're doing for you right out here on Front Street. It's going to be another amazing weekend of college football, and now we are all set to take it in together. Our predictions are in. We've loaded up those videos. Go check out our prediction videos. And what you got, Mason?
I got one more for you. Arkansas at plus 205. I think that's really good value for Arkansas. Kind of just really feel like they're the better team, a more healthy team than Ole Miss right now. So I'm willing to bet on that.
Just a little extra sprinkle on top there.
A little extra sprinkle. You're welcome.
Very good. Guys, enjoy week 3. Okay, this is meant to be enjoyed. You paid the fare, ride the ride. Okay, it's going to be a good one. It's not the weekend to be going to the pumpkin patch or none of that stuff. You're not going to want to miss this. Maybe you miss a couple of these noon games, but man, you got to be buckled in. 3:30 on. It's going to be really, really good. Thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hit the like button for me, as I said, and I'll leave you with this. Go Dogs and go first and long. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.